MJ from the Real Mission Impossible show. We have a special guest today who has not only exceeded as a family man, has exceeded also as a businessman, but he rose to the highest ranks in American football and played 9 years for the NFL. I'd like to present to you a motivational speaker and author and a true gentleman, JJ Birden. JJ, thanks for coming on the show. How are you?
I'm doing good, MJ. It's good to be on the show, and I'm looking forward to sharing and hopefully giving some value to your audience.
Well, you do already. JJ, people who don't know anything about you and they do follow the show, they know that we often entertain guests and host guests who've actually had a bit of adversity and overcome all types of things and found a way to go on in life. And we're going to ask you just to kind of unpack some of the things that you did. First of all, just to talk about your athletic career, for example, if there were bookies, and I say this most respectfully in the nicest way, if there were bookies saying, okay, here's 100 guys, which one of these is going to end up playing for the NFL? How many of them would bet on you?
Probably zero. No. Definitely zero. Nobody saw that coming, not even myself.
And of course, the audience probably doesn't know that the NFL, has a particular, I don't know if it's a metric or a shoe size or what it is, but those are just huge, colossal guys. And you were playing not only on that field exceptionally well, but when you got crushed, I never did ask you this personally, you must have really got crushed.
Yeah, I did. I mean, like you said, big guys in the game of the NFL, when you think of the average NFL player is 6'2" and 245 pounds, and I'm running around out there at 157 pounds, and not to mention, I just wasn't the prototypical wide receiver growing up in college and high school. So, playing in NFL wasn't really the plan. It wasn't really the dream. And I was never on anyone's radar. But as we're going to probably talk about, I'm one of those guys, though, when I get the opportunity, I have the ability to prove people wrong.
And tell us what drove you. I mean, people give good reasons like, I would like to do this. I would like to please my parents or whatever. But what was really driving you to excel in such a competitive environment that, again, against all odds, frankly?
Yeah, it's a good question because the goal was never to play in the NFL. That wasn't, part of the plan, but it was really just more trying to change my circumstances. I was raised in Northeast Portland, Oregon. I was raised in the hood, a wonderful single parent mom. And, we struggled growing up. We didn't have much. And I just made a decision at an early age that I was going to break the cycle. I was going to do something else, something to put myself in a position to create opportunities for myself and my future family. I just didn't know what avenue I was going to travel down, but I had that drive. That was that why. That was the thing that was driving me to be successful. And it just so happens that this pathway opened up as far as football. And that was kind of I guess you could say, the route I went.
And what a route you did. I mean, to play 2 years or 3 years, a lot of players don't play after 3 years. You went on and played another 3, and then you went on to play another 3. So it wasn't any accident you were there. It wasn't that somebody was doing you a favor or they knew you growing up and says, hey, if we give a little JJ a job. You had to earn your keep every single day, and, you had to make the cut every single day.
Yeah, I sure did. And I think MJ had really started in, junior high and high school because I was always undersized and I was always put in situations where people would doubt me. Oh, you're too small. You don't belong. And then I'm like, okay, I'll show you, And then it's high school. Oh, you're too small to play in college. Okay, I'll show you. And worked my way onto the University of Oregon football team and literally begged the coach to let me walk on. I was there for a track scholarship. But that's what happened. And that's kind of how that's just my makeup. When someone tells me I can't do something and I believe I can do it, I'm going to do what I can to show them that I can. Again, I'm going to say It wasn't to get in the NFL, but that's what happens when you have that work ethic, that intensity, that determination. These doorways, these opportunities start presenting themselves, and that's really what happened as far as the NFL.
Well, congratulations. What a wonderful career you had. And anybody who wants to just have a look and see some of the clips that are available on YouTube can see some of the spectacular plays that you pulled off.
Comes the corner blitz. They go on the fade pattern, wide open, a blown coverage. Touchdown, JJ Birden. Wow, what a mistake in the Eagles secondary.
That's the blitz coming right here. There's two receivers here. This man comes, that leaves Eric Allen with a choice between the two receivers. Jones goes inside with Allen, and looky here, there's another former Oregon Duck in the end zone.
Today, we've now just come out of something we call the damn-demic. We're now looking ahead to see what's going on. A lot of companies who have tried to survive throughout this and find themselves coming out of their last pivot so that they can make it are turning to motivational speakers like you who have a message. The message is about how to be resilient and how can you inspire and how do you inspire those companies who call on you to give your advice.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been pretty exciting too, because obviously the speaking industry kind of went through some ups and downs with COVID and all that, but there's really a demand to get companies, teams back on track. And it's one of the things I love, because I've been able to take the lessons I learned during my journey to the NFL and the time I was there and share some of these strategies and success tips and winning principles, because they relate. They're transferable into the business world. Because like you mentioned earlier, making it to the highest level in the NFL, it doesn't happen by accident. It happens by, following a simple system of success and, like you mentioned, determination and excellence and all that. But I've been able to share a presentation I call Seizing Your Opportunities with a lot of the corporations, and just kind of highlighting simple principles that's going to help them to get out of this funk and really recover and finish the year strong and really get back on track going into 2023.
I guess companies who do bring you in, if you talk to, for example, the people who are responsible for their growth, for example, sales leaders and those types of personnel would probably resonate with them a lot, because they would have been the ones to really feel the resistance in the market. Whenever there's an economic headwind, that they call on sales to go out there and drive income. And it's people like you with your exceptional experience that can inspire those kinds of groups to be able to perform at their best, because your background was really, forget about football just for a moment. It's really your background was performance. It's do or die. It's win or lose, and there's no lose. So every single day you had to be at your very, very best. And if companies today are not at their best, their competition will steamroll them over.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's really what it's all about. And I call it like habit-based training, trying to teach companies and their team how to have the right habits that stay with you no matter what, good times and bad times. Because like you mentioned, in NFL, we had to be on point every single day. We couldn't afford to have a bad day, because if you had a bad day, there was a guy waiting behind you to take your job. So every day you had to come in with the mentality of, how can I be better than I was the day before? Whether it was after a loss or a good game, it was about that consistency. So it's really cool to be able to take companies into my world and then show them how we performed at a high level and stayed at a high level. Here's what you need to do to be able to achieve similar results.
And there's a special formula. I hope I'm not giving anything away here, but it's out there. It's the JJ Birden 1% formula. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And MJ, it was the quick learning experience I got when I started in the NFL, because you join the league, you're coming in with some pretty impressive accolades. I had great speed, great quickness, great ability physically, and I achieved some pretty amazing things in college and high school. But the very first day I'm in the NFL, I remember my very first practice, I was going against a guy named Hanford Dixon, former All-Pro, older player. And I'm thinking, like, I'm just going to run by him, no problem. And when the ball was snapped, Hanford grabs me by my shoulder pads. He takes me like this, and he throws me out of bounds on the ground. And then he looks at me and he says, "Rookie, this is the NFL. And if you're going to play in the NFL, you got to treat every day like it's game day." And that was a wake-up call that it was about making those 1% incremental improvements every single day in your game, because everybody was fast, everybody was strong, everyone was a great athlete. So it was a little improvements every day. And so that was one of the key ingredients of my success, always trying to get better, never getting complacent. And that's one of the things I think that some people in the business world do struggle with. You might have a great week, you might have a great quarter, you might have a great year, and it's so natural for us to kind of take our foot off the gas, get comfortable. And so if I can impress upon them, yes, celebrate your success, but raise that bar a little higher and strive to get better the next day.
I think that's awesome. I'd like to paraphrase my own feeling about that, is that if you're going to be afraid of anything, be afraid of your own complacency.
Yeah, that's good. It kind of reminds me of a quote I heard, is that even though you're winning, complacency can cause you to lose, because it's a facade that people fall into. And I'll tell you, I even saw some of the best athletes in the world, the NFL. I even saw players at that level that would still fall into that trap. But that was the difference between a guy playing 2 years and 9 years.
Yeah, because you're in for the long term, and you played the long game with experience. Did you see? Just to give us a little bit of hint here, did you see ego come into play, where it was disrupting and self-sabotaging with some people?
Yeah, absolutely, because like I mentioned, every NFL player has that wake-up call when you get to the league and you realize that you're not in high school, you're not in college. This guy's an All-American, this guy was all this, and everybody has all the accolades, and every player has a choice. Either A, they're going to go in there with the attitude that, you know what, this worked for me in high school, this worked for me in college, I'm going to just keep doing what I did before. Versus the guys like I came in there like, man, it doesn't matter what I did in high school, college. I got to learn from these guys and get better every single day. And so those who fell into that ego trap, those are the ones that allowed entitlement to really ruin their career. And these are guys that are part of that woulda, coulda, shoulda crowd.
Right. And did you see it? Did you feel it also sometimes where ego would come into the huddle, would come into the locker room when somebody would bring that into the game?
Yeah, you would, but it would only last that long, because the thing about the NFL game is if you're not producing and if you're not winning or if you're not performing at the level you need to with consistency, they will replace you quickly. So if there's anybody in there that's disrupting the harmony of a team or a locker room and the team is losing, you're going to be out of there. So you have to be really careful, because continuity and unity and just everybody being on the same page was key to our success every Sunday.
I saw a keynote, a fantastic one that you did, whereby you introduced that the word team could actually have an I in it, the I in team.
Yeah, that is a concept I love, because being a part of teams, I love being a part of teams. I'm all about teamwork. Put the team's goal ahead of your own personal goals. I get it. I believe in it. But I've also recognized to be a great teammate, to really help your team, you got to make sure you do what you need to do. And so that's why I flipped and said that saying there is no I in team. No, there better be an I in team, because if you can't successfully lead yourself and do your job, how can you really lead others, or how can you be a great teammate? And so that's what's helped me over the years, because if I couldn't really focus on the things I need to do, where I need to improve, where I need to excel, where I needed to grow, then there's no way I could make it.
I think that's awesome. Going back to your early days, you married your college sweetheart. How many years have you been together now?
32 years now.
Awesome. Fantastic. And you guys had 3 children, correct?
Correct.
But then I heard there was an addition to that. Could you give us a little explanation as to how that worked?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like you mentioned, my wife and I, Rain, have been married 32 years, and our goal to having a family was 3 children. We wanted 3 children. That was the number, and we have LaJordan, Dante, and Camille. But back in 2007, my nephew, Justin, called me from Tulsa, Oklahoma. There were some problems going out there with my sister's children. And so 24 hours later, I fly out to Tulsa to check on my 5 nieces and nephews. And 24 hours later after that, I'm standing in a courthouse before a judge. And the judge says, Mr. Birden, we're going to take your 5 nieces and nephews and place them in 5 separate foster homes. You're the next of kin. What would you like to do? So you can only imagine. Yeah, that was my reaction. Like, I'm just here to check on the children, but it was just— I
brought some presents.
Yeah, I know. But, one of the things I learned in the game of football was sometime in life you got to call an audible. And that's what I did. And I was like, Judge, let me call my wife first,
Right. Yeah, throw a timeout on the play.
Yeah, timeout. Let me go out here and talk to my wife. But what's really cool is when you've really married the right person, because my wife and I, we had a 5-minute conversation, and I told her, I said, hey, babe, I will not bring the children back. I don't want to do anything that's going to disrupt our family and ruin what we have. And my wife says, JJ, could you really sleep at night knowing we could make a difference? And the decision was done. We took all 5 of the children. We gained guardianship. We immediately merged them into our family, and we went from a family of 5 to a family of 10 overnight.
My goodness. So, that's really easy to say, but that's colossal as a move, as a father of 3 and a husband to your wife, and then suddenly making this kind of decision. Look what I brought home, honey. I was out shopping, and I brought some kids home, and they're gonna stay with us forever. They're our kids now. Wow.
Yeah, it was like you said. It was a drastic change for our family in so many different ways. Because not only were we making a sacrifice, my 3 children were making a sacrifice, but my wife and I, we saw the impact. We had an opportunity to impact 5 more lives who were going down this road. And MJ, the secret sauce was really the partnership between my wife and I, really being committed to all 8 of the children. And it wasn't easy, but we did the best we could. And I tell you, not only did we make an impact on them, I think they made an impact on us, especially my children too, to be able to see. I think it really helped my children to really appreciate more of what they have in their parents and being together. And they were all great. And we raised them all together. Fortunately, though, the youngest one moved out 1.5 years ago. She was 6 when we got her. She's now 22. So now my wife and I are empty nesters. So we are enjoying this.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, mission accomplished.
Great job.
Yeah, thank you.
But I'm sure, in the beginning when it first happened, I grew up where I've got 7 younger brothers, so we're a family of 8. And I can tell you, there was never a quiet moment in the house. There was never a day where one of the children wasn't being disciplined. In fact, there was a couch you had to sit in and wait for Papa to come home, and he was going to take care of, dish out all the penalties. I mean, you guys became, wardens and parents and coaches all at once, right?
Yeah, there was a major learning curve. You go from 3 children to now 8. And, it was a rocky start at the beginning because we were trying to figure out how do you mesh this family together. But once we got it figured out, I think we were all on the same page. And I tell you, they're all out of the house now, but it was exciting. There was never, as you know, there was never a dull moment in the house. Family dinners were just spectacular. It was so much fun, and you do miss the laughter and all that. But on the other hand, I like having my wife to myself now.
Yeah, and Thanksgiving's around the corner, as they say. So maybe you do get a chance to see some of them during the holidays.
Yeah, and we try to see them whenever we can. And right now, 6 of them still live in Arizona. 2 of them did move out. One moved back to Tulsa, and then my niece lives in Texas. But the 6 of them are here. Fantastic.
And JJ, just to thank you so much for your visit today and sharing that personal story with us, because that really got me going big time. I just said, well, there's motivational speakers and there's people who play the NFL, but here's a guy with a huge heart. And for anybody to do what you did, to be really commended. And of course, you don't need me to tell you that. It's just, it really moved me, and I'm sure it would move a lot of other people in the audience as well. Do you have, going forward as a motivational speaker, do you have any projects you're working on now or anything you'd like to put out there that you could share with us?
Yeah, good question. Well, a couple years ago, I wrote my first book, When Opportunity Knocks, 8 Surefire Ways to Take Advantage. And it really kind of is based on my keynote, Seizing Your Opportunities. But I am early stages on working on book number 2, which is really going to center around the topic of being an underdog. That's kind of my life story, being an underdog. And as I go out there, and I meet so many people that feel like underdogs. They feel like the odds are against them, or maybe they're in a situation that doesn't favor them. And that's my life, conquering those things. So I'm working on a new keynote that's going to be called something like how do you close the underdog gap, or how do you come on top as an underdog? And there'll be a book attached to that too, that actually might be, I don't know, MJ, I've had a couple of reporters that followed me through my NFL career, and they're pushing for me to do an autobiography version of this book. So we'll see. I'm kind of going back and forth on this. We'll see. That's the upcoming project for 2023.
Well, awesome. We wish you all the best with that. JJ Birden, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show today. And for anyone to reaching out, we're going to ask our people to put your links in the show if you're watching this on YouTube. And just for the people who are listening to the podcast on audio, could you give a shout out, JJ, on how people can get in touch with you?
Absolutely, yes. Go to jjbirden.com. That's my website. That's the hub. You can get my book from there. You can connect with me through social media. All over social media, just look up username JJ Birden. Love to connect with the listeners and the followers out there.
But make sure you do connect with him soon, because JJ Birden, one thing for sure, he's fast. Thank you, JJ. We appreciate you.
Appreciate it.